It's wonderful to see you today and to see those of you coming in on Zoom. And I've seen some people I haven't seen in a very long time because it's the rummage sale starting and people are bringing things, but I don't take it personally. We open each service with ringing the peace bowl. That shows, that embodies our collective hope for peace. We also ring that bowl to recognize, to affirm together that these lands that we love, these lands that support us, these lands that are loving the water that is coming in, and these lands where the daffodils are pushing up, getting ready to burst out. And all of a sudden we will look out and go, they bloomed. These lands we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, of the Wipukepas, the Tolkepayas, the Quevkepayas, and the Yavapai. We are going to do a lot of singing in this service, and I hope you on Zoom sing loud too. So please rise in body or spirit, and we are going to sing hymn number 153. The words will be up here too, but I love it when you look this way because I'm looking out and everybody's going. So, oh, I woke up this morning. Let's sing together. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mind, stayed on freedom, walking and talking with my mind, stayed on freedom, walking and talking with my mind, stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was praying and singing with my mind, stayed on freedom, singing and praying with my mind, stayed on freedom, singing and praying with my mind, stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. With my mind, stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And thanks to Russ and Peter who took up those words in parentheses. Thank you. Great job, everyone.
Good morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And for any visitors that we have on Zoom this morning, we are in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Bobby Bollinger. I'm your worship associate this morning. We understand that you have many demands on your time on Sunday mornings, and we're pleased that you've chosen to spend this hour with our beloved community. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. After the service today, we invite all present to join us in Davis Hall for coffee and socializing. And we hope that those of you on Zoom will join one of the breakout rooms for discussion and to greet your neighbors. We invite all curious and inquiring minds to check us out on our website at prescottuu.org for more information about Granite Peak. Visitors will have an opportunity to introduce themselves at the end of the service if they are comfortable in doing so. We'd love to get to know you over a cup of coffee. This morning, we thank our pianist, as always, Lena Hubin, as well as Mary Lou Prince for our music coordination, Deidre Schwartz for audiovisual and technical support, our greeters, our coffee makers, and all volunteers who are making this service possible. Please use this quick reminder to set your phones on worship mode. We have a few announcements this morning. In addition to the announcements that we're showing on the screen before the service, you may also learn all that is going on in Granite Peak through our weekly Peak, the monthly newsletter on our website, and in Reverend Patty's videos, or in printed copies of the announcements, which are in the foyer on the welcome table. Children are welcome here, and Sandra Palacios is across the street with children ages 5 and over. So if you have kids, bring them on in. The week of our rummage sale has arrived. You may start bringing your discarded treasures in as soon as this afternoon after the service and during the rest of the week. If you can stay for a few minutes, Barb, I think I'm correct on this. You'd like to have the chairs removed and moved to the side of the room, to the front of the room, so that we can make room for the tables. Your manpower on that, your womanpower on that would be of help. We include in our service each week the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting our chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Rick Denny. If there is ever a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feel the flame of justice.
Good morning again. I can't get enough of good mornings recently. Yesterday, when I went to the farmer's market to turn in the compost and I was all in a rush to get back to do something, I had a thought. What would make my day wonderful? And the answer was clear. I needed to walk into the farmer's market and look at the tulips that were being sold. I saw flowers there for the first time, and bok choy and arugula and daikon and radishes. And all of those things made me very happy. And this morning, when I was walking, there was a wind rushing in the tops of the trees, and our streams are running high in our neighborhood. I wonder if you, like me, if you are ready to shake off winter. How about you on Zoom? Are you ready to shake it off? Yes, yes. I believe that the time for renewal is here. When snakes start to leave their long, one time we had 3 rattlesnake skins in our front garden. We found them in southern Arizona. We hid them from the people who bought our home. But we are here feeling that wonderful energy of spring rising up in us. Let us rise together in body or spirit, and let us sing about the mystery of this hour gathered here on number 389 for those of you who are singing in hymnals. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. That's our shortest song. Thank you. It is around. Do any of you remember when I came here and spoke for you at the first time and brought 2 rounds and you all looked at me like, we don't do rounds at Granite Peak. And I have taken that seriously. So but I love this song. So maybe sometime Mary Lou can coach us all in rounds. We'll get around to it. Thank you, Russ. In another 4 years. Okay. Please join me in saying our covenant together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you again into a different kind of time. Let us breathe together. But as we begin, I want to especially bring the joy of Bronwyn Butterfield, who has been serving our smallest children now for a very long time. And this is her last Sunday. So we want to give her thanks. She's going to come in at the end of our program, but I wanted to lift up that joy right now and let you know that after we put all the chairs away, there is cake. And I'm looking at you on Zoom, no cake for you. But there is, in the other room, those who are attending have cake. There is cake in Davis Hall to celebrate Bronwyn. And at the end of the service, if we can coordinate it well, she would like to say a few words in response to our thanks. So let us listen to this sound. I invite you to imagine a place of beauty. Some of you will be thinking of that Grand Canyon, and others of the spring below your garden, and others of a long view you can see from your kitchen window, and others perhaps of that hyacinth that is blooming on your dining table. We come here lifted by spring. We come here joined by our collective love of this earth. We also come here fully human, each of us carrying the joys and sorrows of our lives. Today we lift up especially Edie Ingersoll, who will be having surgery tomorrow morning. Barbara Jacobson, who is well now, so hers is a joy. Bev Bostrom, who is recovering, and Karen Hagbert, Schaefer, who are still in that period of grief after losing beloved people in their lives. We hold Frank and Nancy Beeson, and Kelsey Willis and her husband, Jeffrey. Who do you know out there and on Zoom? Who would you like for us to hold at this time? What? Victor Karsrud. Thank you. Ah, yes, of course, thank you. My imperfection again. Marilyn Coulter, of course, who lost her husband this past week. I was with her on Tuesday, and she is also feeling enveloped by the beautiful earth around where she lives. Are there others? Dave DeVille. And then if there's Dave, we must lift up Sandy as well. Dick Rossage, Ed's brother, thank you. Let me see it. Les and Sue, who were in a car accident yesterday and having surgery today. Joyce. And let's hold Joyce as well. And any others. I now invite you then to enter a time of meditation during which you can come up, and I think it is valuable when we are holding these, especially sorrows, that we are able to release them. And we have a bowl of water here where you can put a stone to remember as we listen to music, or just stay where you are and enter back into that place of beauty that is where you feel that connection with the earth. And we especially also hold Karen in Bakersfield, who is finishing her brother's estate at this time. And I hold my brother and his daughter and family that's why I had so many stones. It wasn't from here, but difficult times. Please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we are grateful for this community to which we can bring these joys and sorrows. We ask for comfort for those who are grieving. And we ask for those who are experiencing joy that they will find friends with whom they can share that joy. For all of the joys and sorrows that are happening in this great interconnected web of life, we ask for that connection and to know when we are able to reach out our hands and give comfort or join in joy. Amen. And may it be so. And this time we sing a different song, one of our favorites, Spirit of Life. Let us, you can remain seated, but let us sing together. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our beloved community supports this congregation throughout the year with gifts of time, talent, and treasure. Our morning offering supports the programs, salaries, and building expenses that enable our congregation to move forward and thrive. Additionally, Granite Peak has a long history of giving back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. March's recipient is Unitarian Universalist Justice in Arizona, a statewide organization that was founded by members of this congregation. Please read about them in your order of service. For those of you on Zoom, there will be a link in the chat as to how you can give, and there's also a link on our website. The offering will now be taken. So beautiful. The generosity of spirit in your offerings is received with much love and gratitude. Blessed be. I have a stewardship moment to read on behalf of Marianne Erickson, who actually is here this morning. She is our most capable stewardship chair. And as you know, the month of March is our stewardship campaign month to raise funds and pledges for our upcoming fiscal year. Marianne has this update to share with all of you. The theme of this year's campaign is The Beat Goes On. The beat goes on in the minds of our congregation's 28 stewards as they contact, visit, and accept operating funds from pledges from our members and our contributing friends. After 1 week of our official stewardship drive, we have pledges for $125,064 toward our campaign goal of $257,074. That puts us at 49% of our goal to date. Thank you to all the stewards and to each of you who have pledged already or are planning to pledge during March, our official campaign month. Through your generous and supportive pledges, we will fund next year's fiscal year expenses and congregational goals completely and be able to vote on a balanced budget at the congregation's annual meeting on Sunday, May the 7th. In keeping with the courageous and indomitable spirit of Recy Taylor, whose story Reverend Patty will be sharing this morning, I share with you Maya Angelou's well-known poem, Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk around like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like suns and like moons and like suns, with the certainty of the tides, just like hopes springing high, still I rise. Do you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard? You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Thank you, Bobby. That was wonderful. And now we're going to sing again. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we're going to sing, Gonna Lay Down My Sword and Shield. And let's mean it. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. See war no more.
study war no more. I ain't gonna 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 study war no more. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna shake hands around the world. Thank you.
This is a difficult story. I feel like when you have that sign, when you rent that movie, you have that sign about it being a might be upsetting story. This is a story that is upsetting for anyone who hears it. I'm kind of glad Julian went out. Thank you. Good timing, good timing. But it being upsetting for us is nothing compared to the way it was for her, Recy Taylor, who was brought up in Abbeville, Alabama. And when she was a young married woman with a child in 1944, she attended an evening church service, like we come here for movies with meaning or something. And then she walked out of the church doors into the darkness of a night in the country, and her life changed forever. On her way home, she was abducted by several white men, blindfolded and violated by them, and left on the side of the road. And then when the men dropped her off in the middle of Abbeville, they told her not to say anything, and that if she did, they would kill her. Recy Taylor would not be silent, and her insistence on telling what happened and demanding justice has been called an underpinning of the civil rights movement. Days after this brutal attack, Taylor's story traveled through word of mouth, catching the attention of a Montgomery NAACP activist named Rosa Parks, a seasoned crusader for justice who focused on the sexual assaults to Black women that were commonplace in the segregated South. Parks would eventually help bring the case to international attention. But despite her efforts, in Jim Crow era Alabama, Taylor's assailants were never punished. But Parks saw an opportunity to hold up Recy Taylor's story as a national example of Southern injustice. She partnered with progressive groups to form the Alabama Committee for Equal Justice for Recy Taylor. The coalition became a national movement that the Chicago Defender called the strongest campaign for equal justice to be seen in a decade. And daily stories were printed in newspapers across the nation, from Baltimore to Los Angeles. And that effort included this massive letter writing campaign to the Alabama governor, Chauncey Sparks, to bring it to his attention that Taylor's abductors needed to be put on trial. And he started to be worried. He got so many letters, he was worried about Alabama's reputation. And he arranged an investigation. He even got some of these men to admit what they had done. He and the attorney believed these men were guilty and they were ready to do something. The only problem was that under Alabama law, a criminal case cannot proceed without an indictment in the county where the crime happened. They just weren't going to indict their neighbors and sons in Abbeville. There was no further hearing, but the book did not close. Finally, at the age of 91, in 2011, when I heard Recy Taylor's story, she finally received an apology from the state of Alabama. 91 years old, she waited. And that's part of what I love about her story, that she kept waiting and wanting this to happen. And at last, she felt a part of the justice that would flow like water through this land. Today, we celebrate Recy Taylor's courage to call for justice and her great patience and her faith to live beautifully until that day. The song you're going to hear, we were going to have the choir sing, but Mary Lou has a sore throat, and that becomes dire in these times. So she did not want to come here and possibly infect the choir or anyone. But this is a performance of this song called Calling for Sweet Justice. And in it, you will hear the Lord's Prayer, which was her faith that kept Recy Taylor strong through this time. And you will hear her call for justice. Let's listen to Calling for Sweet Justice. Rustling outside, great patience, beautifully until that day for Recy Taylor.
As it
One of our Unitarian Universalist sources of wisdom is the words and deeds of prophetic men and women which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Recy Taylor, her life is one of my sources. As a young woman, a situation that happened to her, this trauma that happened to her that was completely out of her control, changed everything in her life. This was a personal tragedy. And Rosa Parks, the woman who gave her support, knew that the tragedy had to be public, that it was an important part of the experience of Black Americans, and that shedding light on Recy Taylor's experience held the possibility of bringing understanding and justice to a broader experience of African American women, such as Emmett Till and George Floyd's deaths, shed light on the larger, widespread experience of African American men. Each time I consider Recy Taylor's story, another aspect of it comes alive for me. She wrote of how difficult it was for her to be open about what happened. In an interview with The Root, she also blames herself for some of the hush-hush nature of her story. I should have talked more about it too, she said. But at the time, I didn't want nobody to think something like that happened to me. I was ashamed of it, and I didn't know how to go about talking about it. It's hard for us to imagine how difficult it was for Recy Taylor to be open about what happened that night. And yet, I believe that many of us have an inkling of what it is to be open about something that is so personal as abuse. Almost everyone I have gotten to know in my life, almost every person I meet who tells me their story, after a while I find such a story. So I'm asking you if you have such a story, if you have such a story to tell, a difficult story to tell. Sometimes stories of abuse or suicide don't emerge until the person is much later in their life or even after their death. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I began to hear about, oh, that person, they described his death differently, but it was suicide. And that young child was hurt very badly and murdered. The story I had heard so differently in other ways growing up, that I heard these stories connected with my own family. And it really takes courage for a family or an individual to reveal a story. We have witnessed great courage in recent years in the family of George Floyd. Do you remember that? The memorial service that they had, and they made their private grief public. We shared in their grief. I bet that was hard for them. We shared in their grief and we came to understand their love. And that was important because it brought about a change in our nation. It brought many of us to understand how much we needed to change. And we needed Recy Taylor's story, because this country needed and needs to transform. The state of Alabama and indeed our whole nation, had to take responsibility until a conversation about change could happen. She received a medal from President Obama. Wow. And as late as 1999, when Recy's brother spoke to her about the incident, Recy wept. I have also wondered, another aspect of her story I've wondered about in preparing for today is the role of the faith community that supported her and lifted her up. I wonder, how do we in this community support each other? Could we support a member who went through such a tragedy, accepting the fears, the vulnerability, and creating an atmosphere in which wholeness is fostered and encouraged? I imagine that there were people around her in her church community who wanted her to be quiet because any talk about it was way beyond their comfort zone. Boris Cyrulnik, a French psychiatrist, writes of the importance of community when one experiences a traumatic event. As a Jewish child during World War II, he was entrusted into a foster family for his protection. But in 1943, he was taken with adults to a Nazi-led capture place in Bordeaux, and he avoided detention by hiding in the bathroom. And later he was hidden by families in France, in the countryside. Both of his parents were arrested and died. His own story informed his work that established this: in order for us to suffer a trauma, we must undergo what is known as a double blow. The first blow is the perturbing event itself, the traumatic occurrence. But for this to take root in a person's life, a second blow must occur, dependent on the behavior of those around us. In broad strokes, that second blow is an implication. It's when we feel rejection, abandonment, stigmatization, disgust, contempt, or humiliation, with incomprehension being a quality that is common to all of these. This second blow comes from how the story of trauma is received. According to Dr. Cyrulnik, there are three pillars of resilience. One is personal, having internal roots to rely on from birth, secure attachment to parents. This is one of the strongest means to overcome trauma. The second is social and familial context, the kind of support we get from the people around us, from parents, from people close to us, from friends. And these are the key to pulling through painful trauma. And then there's the societal context, where we're able to rely on social and legal support at such times. The support of the greater community. That mitigates trauma and strengthens the victim. I want us in this community to be the kind of people, the kind of community that can hold people who come to us in the most difficult times of their lives, as Recy Taylor did that first Sunday she went back to church. I hear wonderful stories from our neighborhood outreach. We've come to know people who've experienced trauma in their own countries, trauma that forced them to migrate. And then there's the trauma that they encounter in their new country, the traumas of poverty, of the lack of acceptance, of racism. But the care that we give, that we are extending through our neighborhood outreach, is helping to lessen that double blow. We are being that kind of community to others. I also know, because I know many of the stories of people who come to us, that people come through our doors holding many kinds of traumatic experiences that we cannot imagine, of long incarcerations, of wartime, of abuse of family, of abuse of strangers, of all kinds of addictions. The way we receive their stories, the way we receive our stories matters. Our stories, our willingness to tell them, can change everything. And such holy stories have unfolded in this sanctuary. I remember that beautiful service that didn't happen here, but on Zoom, of our veterans talking about their experience. We have held stories of coming out, of embracing changes in gender, of wartime trauma, incarceration, disability, mental illness, abuse within families, by strangers, and that work of changing pronouns. Together, I believe that as a faith community, we have a great opportunity by the way that we listen and we receive stories. That offers healing. Instead of re-traumatizing and deepening the trauma, we can offer healing by the way we listen. The way we receive stories can change the way we see the world too, for those stories received deeply will change us. Today, I hope that you with me extend your gratitude for the great sacrifice to Recy Taylor, for the great sacrifice that she made for making her very private story public. And let us pledge to be a community that supports people who are going through trauma by holding their lives tenderly and without judgment. I believe this is the work of beloved community. May we be a place where stories live and where stories bring us to that far view of the world, of that far view of the human heart, and energize us to work for justice for all. Amen. And may it be so. And now we are going to sing a fun song. So please rise. We could move a little. And we will sing Guide My Feet, which is the song that Pocahontas Gertler chose as her kind of theme song during the difficult times of her life. Guide my feet. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Thank you. That felt good to sing, didn't it? That felt good to sing. I give thanks for this community that has held a lot of stories in our 25 years. And may we continue to be that place where people can come and have their stories listened to and held tenderly. Amen. And may it be so. And we have somebody back there who's been dancing to the music. So I'm going to invite Bronwyn Butterfield up, who just put on her hat so she may dance. Bronwyn, would you like to come? Anyway, she has been an incredible gift. She continues to be. She's not leaving, I hope. You're not leaving, are you, Bronwyn? You're just moving your place. She's coming into us, so prepare for more dancing. Okay, Bronwyn.
This is my last day in the nursery. I'm going to rejoin the worship committee again, but I just wanted to introduce Recy Martinez, National Honor Society volunteer at our congregation here with the nursery, and we call it place two and as well. So we never know what age we're going to get in there. We take all ages. Usually the 5 and older go next door, but sometimes they end up with me, which is really a treat. And then we have Audrey Jarnigan, who's been a long time member. So we're just pleased. And these two women, girls, almost women, are incredible advocates for early childhood. They're compassionate, caring, intelligent. They're on top of this, believe me, unbelievable. So I just wanted to mention that children are indeed our future. And as educators and adults, we must teach peace, love, and instill an appreciation for the natural world. And today's lesson was on peace, and Clara decorated the peace sign. Right, Clara? Yeah, you decorated the peace sign today, the hand. Everybody give Clara the peace sign. Yay! Right. Also, we're facilitators as well as guides. We can provide experience for Also, we as guides and facilitators can provide exposure to creativity through the arts, music, dance, paintings, drawings, acting, role play, improvisation. So we really try to do our best to create a creative environment, especially where the 8 intelligences are emphasized. So thank you so much.
I wonder, yes. Thank you, Bronwyn and Areli and Audrey. I wonder if you guys are going to just start migrating over there. Sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe we need to do more of that here too. So now we're going to have some dancing, but it will be to a song called Now Let Us Sing. Please rise again in body or spirit, and we will sing our postlude. But just a moment. I think we should do this chalice after this, because people can sing it on Zoom. You aren't bored, are you, on Zoom yet? Okay, please rise in body or spirit and let us sing. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. We could keep going while we move the chairs, but let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now all of you on Zoom can go into your breakout rooms, but I also have something quick to say, but none of you get the idea that I will do this ever again. We are looking for a treasurer. Somebody who would like to take over, fill the big shoes of Russ Erickson. And I'm making this announcement here because we're wondering if anyone is feeling that reverberation about, ooh, that sounds like so much fun. If you are, please talk with Russ afterwards. And also, yes, I think that's enough. So now let us help move the chairs away and then we shall go get cake. Thank you all who came on Zoom. Good to see you, Daryl. Oh, wait, is anybody visiting? Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry.